Welcome to another episode of Financially Irresponsible. I'm your host, Rahkim Sabree, and I want to start off where we left off the last time. Recently, I published an article for Forbes discussing the financial trauma of millennials who are at the six-figure income bracket and somehow are still navigating this paycheck to paycheck cycle. I tapped on a couple of financial experts who are also millennials who've made six figures and was able to get some insights into different areas that contribute to why the elusive $100,000 salary simply isn't enough. The first individual that I reached out to, he has a successful financial literacy platform known as Better Wallet. He talked about how growing up and experiencing some poverty, that the six-figure mark was kind of like this big goal. And I could relate to that. I think a lot of people can relate to that. We hear $100,000 and we think, wow, that's a lot of money. What he realized in his career mobility, once he had reached the six-figure mark, was that he still had the remnants of past financial mismanagement, some debt that he had to navigate, living beyond his means, etc. And so in the process of overcoming his challenging childhood, his challenging upbringing, once he got to this goal that he had set for himself, it was kind of fleeting. He mentioned that a lot of the money that was coming in was going out as soon as it was coming in. And that beyond that, he had to reposition his lifestyle, where he was able to live beneath his means. He was able to pay off a significant amount of credit card debt. And he ultimately realized that the way that he was spending his money wasn't aligned to what made him happy or what made him feel fulfilled. And that more so it was aligned to signaling to others what success, or rather what he thought success looked like. And so when we talk about growing up and trying to hit this mark, there is a significant amount of emphasis and energy placed into getting the high-paying career, getting that high-paying job. And again, we set the goal usually at the $100,000 mark. Now, some people, in response to this article and in response to the sharing of this article, indicated that $100,000 is really not a lot of money, especially if you live in a large metropolitan city like New York or anywhere in California. And so that was really interesting, really telling, because Forbes shared this article on their social media platforms across Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. And so I got to see in real time what people's feedback to this article looked like and the mix match of emotions that individuals who were at the six-figure mark and felt a lack of fulfillment in terms of their income had to say about it, to see what individuals who have not quite achieved the six-figure mark, individuals who were making half of that, and what their feedback was. In that they're like, well, if you're making six figures and I'm making half of that, then I'm really doomed, because this is how you feel and I'm not even there yet. Other people felt like, well, because you make $100,000 a year or more, that I could do so much more if I only got to where you are. And so they're viewing the people who are making less than $100,000 a year, they're viewing the people who are making $100,000 a year or more from a position of financial mismanagement or wastefulness. And so it was really interesting to kind of watch how this broad population of individuals were reacting to these numbers and reacting to what was tied into the numbers, because it seems, and is certainly the case, that we assign value to ourselves based off of how much income we are able to command. I'm going to repeat that. It seems that we are assigning value to ourselves based off of how much income we can command. And that's not only true of how we look at ourselves internally, but it's also true of how we look at others. whether or not we feel like somebody is being responsible, irresponsible, successful, unsuccessful, winning in life, or failing in life is largely influenced by the type of career that they have and how much money they're able to make. And so the next expert that I interviewed talked about student loan debt as this big dream that was sold to us, millennials. And a lot of what it is that she talks about on her platform, which is debt-free gonna be on Instagram, is centered around student loan forgiveness and how to help people navigate the forgiveness process, because it's not a secret that we are experiencing a student loan crisis. And she talks about how millennials were sold this dream of go to college, take out the student loan debt, you'll get a high paying job, you'll be able to pay that back, and based off of your new high income, you'll be able to live the life of your dreams. And more than that, you'll be able to support your family. And so millennials followed suit with everybody telling us to go take out these loans to go to school, from our school counselors to family to teachers. And I personally remember going on a college visit and discussing with the financial aid office what the cost of tuition, room and board was going to look like, and feeling a little discouraged at the amount based off of what my award was or the grant scholarships that I was receiving, in that the gap, there was going to be a very apparent gap. And the individual who was kind of like an advisor had shared with me that everybody takes out student loans. And so don't worry about it. Just take out the student loans. Everything will be okay. And I remember the process as a kid, maybe not even 18 years old yet, filling out the student loan application and having to do a pre-interview assessment for the application, where I was reading through pages and pages and pages of stuff that just made my eyes glaze over. And basically explaining kind of the protocol of what collection process was going to look like and how student loans would impact me, and that I needed to pay the student loans back, but I had two different kinds of loans, and so the repayment, or rather the interest, would accrue, but I wouldn't have to pay as long as I was a full-time student on one loan. On another loan, there was no interest accruing while I was a full-time student, and then 6 months after I stopped being a full-time student, I would start to have to pay and the interest would accrue. And it was just all a lot of confusing language. But of course, at the end of this pre-interview that was done in front of a computer screen over a period of maybe an hour, I had to click, I consent, okay. And they gave me the loan. And so this individual talks about how a lot of millennials are frustrated, but not only frustrated, burdened with the debt of their student loans, because what we were told around going to school, taking out the loans, getting a high paying job, and being able to live the life of our dreams was a lie. There are a lot of people, to my previous point, who are making six figures, and that money is going out just as quickly as it's coming in because of the lifestyle expenses and the debt, a lot of which is student loan debt, that is commanding kind of first dibs of the income that's being generated by millennials. And so you have millennials who, because they're so burdened with debt from student loans and they're burdened with debt from credit cards, can't afford to even consider purchasing a home, for instance, or maybe investing in retirement, or looking at life beyond what is their current circumstances. And so there's a frustration there. There's almost a desperation there that says, well, it's not going to get any better. I just got to keep doing what it is that I'm doing and running on this cyclical hamster wheel of sorts until the loans are paid off, which could be, depending on how you attack it, how you address it, could be most of your life, if not the rest of your life. The third expert that I spoke to specialized for a long time in helping people improve their credit, learn about credit, repair their credit. And her account is the THEE Money Plug. And she talks about how the lenders, a lot of times, and whether that be for loans, whether that be for credit cards, are aware of the pain points financially and the traumas, particularly within communities of color and first generation communities who don't have the foundational financial education to know how to navigate these seemingly basic products with the prowess of individuals who have had a formal training or formal education. Beyond that, she speaks to how financial education in a traditional sense is not very inclusive and does not acknowledge the historical inequality that individuals, particularly Black Americans, have experienced, and therefore the trigger of trauma that comes with navigating financial products and services. And I've talked about this on the show in the past, where there is unbanked and underbanked communities who refuse to engage, or willful non-participation in financial products and services based off of the abuses that they've experienced, or that somebody that they know have experienced that has been passed down through stories or accounts of this is what we experienced, and so this is why we don't engage. And so the credit bureaus, the lenders for the credit cards and lenders for loans are aware of kind of this reluctance to engage and pad their offers with bonuses and points and other sorts of incentives that now gamifies the experience of using credit in a way that is destructive to the consumer, because the consumer is chasing the rewards and the points so that they can get the cash back, or so that they can jump on the plane for free, or get the night stay at the hotel for free, or in some extreme cases, use their rewards to as cash, as currency, to lessen the burden of the expenses that they have and buy basic necessities. And so this individual speaks of a framework that incorporates financial inclusivity into financial education efforts by providers. And the framework is acronym BLACK, BLACK. The last individual that I interviewed, her handle is the Millennial in Debt. She's a co-founder of Millennial in Debt, and she talks about how she achieved what's known as FIRE, or financial independence, on a teacher's salary, and basically breaks down how individuals, everyday individuals, can take steps towards building their retirement now, regardless of what their income is. And one of the kind of resounding messages that I noticed in different interviews that I had was this emphasis on starting now, whether that be from a place of education, whether that be from a place of taking action. The emphasis on starting now. It can never be too early for you to start planning, for you to start saving, for you to start investing. But more than that, acknowledging that starting now doesn't have to look like these grand contributions. It can be something small as $25, $50, $100 every time you get paid, and that those contributions would gradually grow over time. And so this individual breaks down what is the FIRE movement. It's not something that I've talked a lot about on the show because it's not something that traditionally I felt was very appealing to me. My understanding of FIRE, which is an acronym for Financial Independence, Retire Early, was that there were a bunch of people who were making a lot of money and were downsizing their lifestyle expenses to an extreme degree, So let's say they were making 120, 150, $200,000 a year, but they were only living off of $20 to $30,000 a year. And the reason why they downsized their lifestyle to that extreme degree was so that they can put so much more of their income towards investing and saving. In many instances, these individuals also are debt free. So they focus on eliminating their debt, and now they're throwing chunks of money into these investment vehicles, whether that be with the intentions of retiring, which is predominantly the case, or with the intentions of generating in a non-retirement vehicle enough recurring cash flow through dividend payouts that they could basically draw an income from the dividends of their investments without having to take from the investments. And this extreme lifestyle or approach to financial independence was something that I personally didn't feel like was sustainable. Beyond that, I also felt like it was riddled with aspects of privilege because not everybody is making $100,000, $200,000 a year. And so how can they view this lifestyle or this approach to lifestyle through the lens of downsizing when they're up to their eyelids in expenses, whether that be through regular lifestyle expenses, through the accumulation of debt that they now have to offload, through student loan debt that they also have to offload. And so I just felt like it wasn't a very inclusive space or approach to retirement. But this individual, she is a Black American, and she explained to me that there are different versions of FIRE. And basically the formula was that you take your expenses, your annual expenses, and you multiply that by 25. And that is your FIRE number. And so basically what you want to do is you want to get that much money invested. So whatever your annual expenses are, times 25 is your FIRE number. And you want to have that much money invested so that when you get to that number invested, if you do not contribute an additional penny, then you will be able to basically continue to live your life based off of your current expenses, your current lifestyle, without adding anything else. And of course, the more you add, the more flexibility you have. And so she was able to accomplish that based off of this discipline that she had around contributing her, what started as a teacher's salary, and I forget what the figure was on that. And based off of the annual increases, she would also increase the amount that she was able to contribute, or rather the amount that she did contribute every single time she got paid. And so when she hit her FIRE number, she realized, I can not contribute anymore, and still, by the time I get to retirement, based off of compounding and the growth of the investments, be able to have enough money in retirement without having to worry about where is this income coming from. And what I really loved about this story was that there's an aspect of long-term planning. There's an aspect of trust in the system. There's an aspect of taking small, consistent steps to make a difference. And there's this challenge to the hopelessness and the desperation that I described earlier for individuals who may not have generated income in the amount of $100,000 a year or more. This is something that anybody can do. Certainly they have to navigate the barriers of, like I talked about, debt, whether that be from student loans or credit cards. They have to navigate the barriers of what their lifestyle expenses look like. Everybody's situation is different. If they're a single person, if they are a coupled person, if they have children, these expenses are all going to vary. But the idea that you can take something as small as $25 every time you get paid and put that money away towards some kind of investment, whether that be a retirement vehicle or whether that be a non-retirement vehicle, and do this behavior over time and watch the compounding that occurs over that period of time, whether that be 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, more, so that when you get to traditional retirement age, you have enough money tucked away so that you can continue to live your life or live your life according to the lifestyle that you've created for yourself without having to worry about whether or not Social Security is going to be enough or in existence, and not have to worry about being a Walmart greeter so that you can survive. So I thought it was really interesting that this article kind of covered the breadth of experiences that individuals may come up against as obstacles in being able to plan for retirement and being able to move forward, acknowledge the lies that millennials were told about student loans, and create a plan to take action today, to take action immediately, whether those actions be big actions or small actions, and understanding that there are options and that there are individuals out there who are experiencing what you're experiencing and who are doing well in navigating those challenges. And I think it's super important to be able to recognize yourself in those individuals, whether that be from the perspective of race, whether that be from the perspective of sex, whether that be from the perspective of age, so that you can realize that this reality is a reality that you can participate in once you acknowledge that it exists. And so taking those actions is super important. And if I can emphasize anything in my learnings from writing this article on Forbes and interviewing these experts, it's that you should take action today, and however big, however small, and be consistent over time. Do not allow these obstacles to remain obstacles. Learn to navigate around those obstacles, and you can do that with help from a financial professional, whether that be a financial counselor, a financial therapist, a financial coach, some financial educator. They can educate you on the tools, the processes, the strategies, what FIRE looks like. You can look up the FIRE movement and start crafting what your vision of financial freedom looks like based off of some of the examples, the real life examples of individuals who have challenges similar to yours. And so I'm going to end this show with those words. I hope that you learned something today. I hope that you go back and you look at the FIRE movement, look up the different versions of FIRE. I believe there's Coast FIRE, there's Barista FIRE, there is a variety of different options as it relates to FIRE. Look up student loan forgiveness and the options that might be available to you. I know there's a lot of change coming, and there's a lot of change that has been implemented over the last couple of months. Do not get left behind on this, and also work on ways to continue to increase your income. Going back to that first individual, talked about how he positioned himself in navigating the corporate structure to be, first of all, acknowledged and recognized for the work that he did, but also to position himself to get raises, to get promotions, to move very quickly in increasing his income, because I will not insult your intelligence or mine by telling you that you can budget your way out of everything. There's only so much you can do to minimize expenses before you have to increase income. This has been another episode of Financially Irresponsible. I look forward to seeing you guys next time.
The water's warm at Jaws Pond, and we're stocked full of treasures. Big or small, we buy it all. We buy and sell fast rides, power tools, vintage guitars, and so much more. Walk the plank in style with our fine jewelry, diamonds, and watches. Plus, we have a huge selection of the latest video games, including the new PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. Jaws Pond, conveniently located on Meriden Waterbury Turnpike in Southington and West Main Street in New Britain.
Follow us on Instagram at nutmeg.tv.